Hey, Husker fans, welcome to another episode of the Husker Big Red podcast with Chris Peterson and Danny Gillette. As always, go Big Red. And it is game week, you guys. It's hard to believe that we actually survived the offseason, but we are back 4 or 5 days away now from Nebraska football taking the field for the first time in the 2024 season. I'm Chris Peterson. I'm back this morning with Danny Gillette. And Danny, how you doing this morning, man? How was the fantasy draft this weekend?
The fantasy draft was good. I took Bijan Robinson with my first pick. Then I have Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, Jake Ferguson. I got Terry McLaurin on my bench. Let's see, who else? I got Harrison Butker as my kicker, the Cowboys defense. So overall, pretty good. And have the fantasy draft. Got to see some week 0 games, including the Georgia Tech upset over Florida State, which honestly kind of blew my mind. I know Florida State's overrated, but I didn't expect them to lose to Georgia Tech. And so it was an exciting week 0, and I'm happy to report that it wasn't exciting because of anything we did.
Yeah, it gave me flashbacks to the Northwestern, the Dublin game, But yeah, that was an interesting game. It was a fun first game to watch. And then Montana State, I'm from Montana, so I was watching Montana State. They came back from 17 down against New Mexico to beat them on Saturday. So, and then there was SMU came back from like 11 down to beat Nevada. So there was some exciting. Yeah. There was 3 comebacks in week 0. So that kind of set the plate. That was a good appetizer for week 1, which Nebraska football is going to be part of. Dun, da, da, da. It's game week, everybody. I'm not going to use the F word, but because we don't want to lose our monetization. But it is game week. That's how excited I am. 5 days away. UTEP's coming in here Saturday, 2:30 Eastern. The Huskers are a 27.5-point favorite right now, I believe, or 26.5 points, depending on where you check. So a pretty healthy favorite. Matt Rule's going to meet with the media on Monday. We'll probably get a depth chart. I don't know that we're going to have any.
You mean?
Today. Yeah. So I'm not sure if we'll probably get the depth chart for the UTEP game today. I don't think there's going to be any big surprises. We already know, Dylan Raiola's starting at quarterback, but maybe I guess at kicker and, people obviously want to see who's going to start at running back. I think it's going to be Emmett Johnson, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Emmett Johnson too, and I wouldn't be surprised if John Hull is the starting kicker for now, because he's looked pretty good in camp. That's not a slight to Tristan Alvano. If you can get Alvano healthy and have a reliable kicker in John Hull, that's more kicking depth than we've had in the past 4 years combined. So, I'm excited to see who the kicker is. I'm excited to see who the starting running back is, even though I believe it's going to be Emmett Johnson as well. We know the quarterback, and I'm just excited to get things rolling. I'm excited to see, how this defense can do again after such a fantastic year last season.
Yeah, they were top 20 last year, and they need to be, on that point again. I think everybody's obviously making that assumption that the defense is going to be just as good as they were last year, but nothing's guaranteed in college football or any sport, really. So those guys have to go out and produce, and hopefully they will. And on that note, as the show title says, we're going to go through some bold, or not necessarily bold predictions, just predictions. I guess I did put bold predictions in this title, but I don't know if they're going to get that bold with our predictions. We'll see. There might be some, but mostly we're just going to try to prognosticate some things that we think are going to happen this Nebraska football season, and we'll probably look back and be completely wrong and probably never talk about this again. So enjoy this time here, because if we are not correct on these predictions, we will not be bringing them up. But if we are right, then we'll be rubbing them in the face of some opposing fan bases. So we'll see how this goes. So prediction 1, Danny, you got your 5 predictions locked and loaded. Are you ready?
I am. And so prediction 1 for me is a safer one, but Nebraska football will make a bowl game this season, and they won't just be 6-6. They'll be 7-5, 8-4. I fully believe that they're going to make a bowl game this year. And, the schedule's friendly. They have a lot of pieces in order for them to make a bowl game. The defense is returning several key guys and some new faces as well. So you have a nice mix of youth and veteran leadership on the defensive side of the football, and they're going to make that bowl game this year. And, I think the only surprise there is going to be who the opponent's going to be.
So I'll go in a line with you. I didn't really necessarily have an order with my predictions, but to not bring up the bowl game later, I'm going to go ahead and agree. And I'm going to say, because that was one of my 5 predictions. So Nebraska will make a bowl game this season. I've got them going 9-3. I think they're going to greatly reduce, their turnover rate. Last year, they turned the ball over 2.6 times per game. And there's just no way that I see that happening this year with Raiola playing quarterback. They're going to run the football well. They're going to be really stout on defense. A lot of the same things from last season are going to carry over. I actually think they'll be even better on special teams. And the schedule pretty favorable. The first 5 at home, 6 of the first 7. I think that they have a good chance of being 7-0 when they go to Columbus, Ohio for that Ohio State game. But I do think that they'll lose a few games down the stretch because it's difficult. But I think they're going to wind up 9-3 and playing in like the Citrus Bowl or the Outback Bowl, just short of the playoff, maybe 1 win shy of the playoff.
Hey, any bowl and being 1 win shy of the playoff, I'll take that in a heartbeat. So
after the last 7 years, yes, it's been a long drought. So all right, let's go to prediction number 2. What's your second prediction for the 2024 Nebraska football season, Danny?
Isaiah Neyor will be in the Fred Blitkoff Award conversation. I fully believe that. I think we talked about him being one of the top receivers in terms of targets. I fully believe he'll be in the Blitkoff Award conversation by the end of the season.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Isaiah Neyor, I could see him having a breakout season for Nebraska. He's a dynamic playmaker. I really could see him, if there's a guy who's going to get 1,000 yards, it might be him for Nebraska. So my second prediction for the season, I'll also go stick with the receiving core, but a different guy. I do really like Isaiah Neyor this year and Jamal Banks, but
yeah.
I just have a feeling, and this probably can go in the category of bowl predictions, but I think Jalen Lloyd is going to lead this Nebraska football team in receiving yards. Last year, he had 3 touchdown receptions of over 50 yards. The only other player in the Big Ten to do that was Marvin Harrison Jr. And last year, he was playing with, Chuba Purdy. This year, he's going to have Dylan Raiola throwing him the football. I think, Neyor, Banks, some of those other guys are going to really, take more focus of the defense. And I think Jalen Lloyd is going to get some one-on-one matchups. And I would not be surprised if he caught 3 more touchdowns of over 50 yards this year. And I think a lot of those big plays, I don't think he'll lead in receptions, but I think he's going to average 18, 19 yards per reception. And I think just because there are going to be so many mouths to feed on the offense, I think like 700, 800 yards is going to lead the way this year. And I think Jalen Lloyd's going to take that number.
So I guess my third prediction here is that Matt Rule is going to be in the conversation for Big Ten Coach of the Year. Now, this one might come back to bite me, but we first 6 games favorable. Back end of the schedule, we've talked about it, kind of a little bit iffy, but I fully believe Matt Rule will be in the Big Ten Coach of the Year conversation.
Yeah, I could buy that prediction. If this team wins 8 or 9 games, I definitely think he's going to have a very good chance of being Big Ten Coach of the Year. Ryan Day is going to be in the mix. I think if they beat Michigan this year, and if they were able to beat Oregon, then I think if Ohio State beats Michigan, he's probably going to be Big Ten Coach of the Year. But it's hard to say though, because didn't Northwestern's coach win it last year?
Yeah, he did.
Say. Yeah, and so and Michigan, had an undefeated season. There was the controversy or whatever, but that shows it doesn't always go to the guy with the undefeated record or whatever. So you could say, hey, Dan Lanning or Ryan Day maybe. If Dan Lanning beats Michigan and Ohio State, he's probably going to get that award. But if Matt Rule, has a 3-4 win improvement like we've seen him have in other second years, I definitely think he would be in the conversation for Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Absolutely. And, to be fair, I think that David Braun definitely deserved the award with what he did for the Northwestern program. But
yeah, he did a great job.
He did do a great job. And okay, so prediction number 4.
Well, I still got to do 3 here.
You got to do 3. Okay.
So I'll stick with this theme of postseason awards. So my prediction, not Super Bowl, Dylan Raiola is going to win Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I think he's going to be a Freshman All-American of the Year, which he's been predicted by ESPN 24/7 on 3, basically every publication. But I think he's going to be Big Ten and Offensive Freshman Player of the Year. Wouldn't surprise me if he was honorable mention All Big Ten. I really think when we look at the quarterbacks at the end of the season, Big Ten quarterbacks, I think he's going to be among the top 5 in this conference. And next year, as we're starting conference play, I think he's going to be at the top of that ranking list of who's the power ranking Big Ten quarterbacks. Dylan Raiola is going to be number 1 next year after winning Big Ten Freshman of the Year this season.
Yeah, I can definitely see it.
All right. Now, prediction number 4. We're rolling through these. Danny, what's your 4th prediction?
We will beat Wisconsin this year.
All right. I like it.
It's going to be a tough game. I believe, is it in Madison or is it in Nebraska? I believe it's in Madison.
It's in Nebraska this year. It's senior day.
I thought it was for some reason back-to-back, but No, I believe we're going to beat Wisconsin this year. Tyler Van Dyke is not, he was good his freshman year. He hasn't really impressed me the last 2 years. Granted, that's not all his fault. The Miami offensive coordinator situation was an absolute mess. But no Braylon Allen this year. And now Wisconsin always has a lot of good running backs. So, but I think we're going to beat Wisconsin this year, and they've been a thorn in our side for a number of years, and I think this is a year where we kind of make a statement, and hopefully by that point we'll already have a bowl game secured, and that will be our seventh win.
Yeah, I would hope that we have that bowl game secured. Wisconsin, the last game at home, and yeah, the past 2 years, Nebraska's blown fourth quarter leads against Wisconsin. They kind of broken our hearts the past couple of years. Last year, of course, the overtime game, but we had the lead almost the entire way and then blew it. And then 2 years ago, I think Casey Thompson came back and played in that game, and we had like maybe a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, or a 7-point lead, and then I think they tied it and then came down and kicked a field goal and beat us, of course, which just always happens. And
which game is that? That could
yeah.
that could have talked about the last 20 games.
It reminds me of the game with Wisconsin when I'm blanking on Phil Jankovic bust through the line for like a 60-yard touchdown to give us the lead, and then like Wisconsin just came right back to, and their kicker had missed like multiple kicks in the game. I want to remember he was really struggling, and then like had a 48-yarder to win the game, and of course nailed it. It's like, yes, this is exactly how Nebraska football goes, but not anymore, folks. Not this year. Although this prediction's not going to be team related specifically, I'm going to plant my flag with James Williams is going to lead this defense in sacks. Jamari Butler last year had led the team with 5.5, and I think he'll be in the mix there. But I just think James Williams, with him getting more opportunities, he had 2 sacks in 4 games. He's going to be able to rush from the inside. I feel like he's an electrifying pass rusher, and I think he's going to get like 6 this year. And kind of like the receivers, there's going to be lots of guys getting sacks this year, and I feel like he'll lead it by a close margin.
Ty Robinson will be a nominee for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, and I believe that he's going to, I'm not going to say finally put it all together, but put a nice bow on what has been a fantastic Nebraska career. You talk about a guy that was underdeveloped initially by Scott Frost and the coaching staff. He's really come on the last 3 years and established himself. He's found his groove. A terrific pass rusher, a terrific defensive lineman. And I know I said Ty Robinson, but also give an honorable mention to Tommy Hill. I think those two are going to have big years for Nebraska, and I'd love to see Hill drafted. I'd love to see Robinson drafted. And, there's a reason Robinson in particular came back. And I think he's going to really have another strong year this year and help one of the best defensive lines in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I could see both of those guys being in that mix, and being in that mix maybe for first team all Big Ten. It's going to be very tough this year for, when you just look at Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, some of these teams, Iowa, are just loaded with superstars on defense. Yeah. Nebraska is too, with Nash, like you said, Tommy Hill, Ty Robinson. So yeah, I definitely can buy that prediction. So my final prediction is a team related one, and Nebraska fans, it's going to be that we are going to beat both of our rivals this year. We're going to beat Colorado in week 2. Sharman Soft, Deion Sanders, we're going to take him out, and Shedeur, we're going to beat the crap out of Shedeur like we did last year. But this year, we're actually going to have a quarterback who can take a snap. Last year, our quarterback could not even handle the snap in the Colorado game. So we're not going to have that situation this year. We're going to beat them. And then I'm predicted it, many times this year, but I just have a feeling that the Iowa fans are going to reap what they sow. They've been talking crap about Dylan Raiola since the day, he came to Nebraska. We know it's all out of jealousy because they haven't had like a functional quarterback since Brad Banks. Like, I can't think of anybody else that even been. Yeah, he was okay. I mean, he was functional, but the last dynamic, Brad Banks was probably the last dynamic quarterback Iowa's had, and that was 2000. That was so long ago I can't even remember.
Ricky Stanzi even was like 15 years ago now. Wow.
Yeah, and so and even I felt like that team, they won a lot of the old Iowa ways with turnovers and special teams. And at any rate, Dylan Raiola is going to show the Iowa fans what a real quarterback looks like. And so Nebraska is going to beat Nebraska is going to beat Iowa and Colorado this year on the way to 9 wins.
And you never know, Nebraska could beat Nebraska. They're very good at doing that. They're probably their best opponent.
They've done that the last 7 years. They beat Nebraska a lot. So
They
we can
better be
avoid that.
Colorado. They're bringing all the good recruits to the Colorado game. They
Yeah.
better be Colorado.
Yeah, there's going to be Michael Terry's visiting for Colorado. A
Michael
bunch of
Clayton,
Michael
Caden
Clayton in
Jones.
2026. A bunch of 2026 kids are coming for the Colorado game, so that will be a big one. So also in addition to some bold predictions, just wanted to give a little introduction to UTEP. We'll get a little bit more in depth on them on Wednesday's show. So we're going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday from now on, since we're back in full season mode, and our Saturday chats. Pre-game for sure, post-game most of the time. We'll see depending on schedule and if I can handle a post-game chat. Sometimes I cannot. I just am not in the mental space to deal with it. So we'll see how it goes.
It's UTEP. You should be in the mental space.
Should be. The prime word there being should, Danny. So looking at this UTEP team, though, you've talked about it before. Scotty Walden coming over from Austin P brought 11 guys with him, including Javon Jackson, a running back that ran for over 1,300 yards with Austin P. So this team's gonna be a little bit quicker of a rebuild, I think, than most kind of transitions to a new staff. They won 3 games last year. Brought some solid pieces back on defense. They only allowed 187 yards per game last year on defense. They got some nice pass rushers, but overall, it seems like a team that's going to have a tough time competing with Nebraska for 4 quarters, especially in the trenches, I think.
And they don't have a quarterback yet. They're set to announce their quarterback this week. Walden said on Sunday, quote, "I'll announce it next week. I'm not really sure what day. I've got to look at film first. I brought those 2 in yesterday, meeting as quarterbacks, and had a great conversation with both of them. They were just like they always are. They handled it like professionals, and yada yada yada." So UTEP doesn't have a starting quarterback yet, as far as as when we recorded this. So I'll be interested to see who the starter is.
Yeah, and so they've got the Cade McConnell, who was there last year at UTEP. He threw for 1,437 yards, 6 touchdowns. Skylar Locklear came over with Scotty Walden from Austin P, where he was a backup, so he's kind of in the mix as well. Another name that you should know from wide receiver, Trey Goodman, came from Austin P, averaged 21 yards per reception, had 7 touchdowns last season. So, FCS football, obviously, it's a drop down from the FBS, but not a huge drop down, especially when you're talking about, the group of 5 conferences. I think the best teams in the FCS can definitely compete with the best teams in the group of 5, in my opinion. So, and Colorado's probably going to find that out on Thursday night. They got to play North Dakota State, man. That's going to be a challenge for those guys from Boulder.
Yeah, no, North Dakota State is no slouch. And, I think even with the point spread, 26, I think, it's not going to be an easy game for Nebraska either. We should win, but it's not going to be a game where we can take lightly. This is a very, up and coming team. Walden is a very good coach. He runs a fast paced offense. And so, as much as we want to say, oh, well, we'll destroy him, it's going to be a cakewalk. I think we should proceed with caution as far as fans go. I think this UTEP team is going to be pretty solid. Maybe not the first game, but especially as they go into the season. And I think Walden's going to do a good job over there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they're definitely going to challenge the pass defense in Nebraska. So Marcus Buford, excuse me, is going to get tested. Some of these, third and fourth cornerbacks that haven't played a lot, we're going to get tested. The pass rush is going to have to get home. I think that the area where Nebraska is going to win this game and wear these guys down is their run defense was not great last year. All their linebackers kind of transferred in, so they don't have a lot of cohesiveness there. And I just think Nebraska is going to be able to establish the run. And I know everybody wants to see Dylan Raiola air it out. I think we will. I think he'll throw for a couple hundred yards, but I think the key to Nebraska winning this game is running for a couple hundred yards, and I think we'll see him do that. I think Emmett Johnson, Dante Dowdell. I think maybe we'll even see Heinrich Harburg mixed in there. Maybe in the second half, but there could be some stuff too early on in the game, some packages. So that I'm going to be watching for that to see if they get him in the first quarter or in the second quarter and give him a chance to run some stuff. But just kind of wearing them down at the line of scrimmage, I think is where Nebraska can salt away this victory.
No turnovers is going to be the key too, which means, fumble, interceptions, all of that. We beat ourselves so many times last season with turnovers. I don't think that's going to be a problem this year, but, it's something to keep in mind. I mean, we've seen too many times where Nebraska's had really good drives going and they've looked really, really strong. And then, a fumble here kind of, ruins the drive or an interception in the end zone, a la the Minnesota game last year, kind of stops the momentum. That drove me crazy. I was just thinking about that now. That drove me nuts. But I'll be interested to see how Marcus Satterfield does. He finally has the weapons needed to run his offense. I know people want him gone. I don't think, I think if you fired him this year, that wouldn't have done anything. We haven't had a coordinator who's lasted more than one season since Troy Walters in 2016. So, I'm going to give Satterfield this year. It's going to be a big year for him, but I think he'll do a lot better.
Yeah, and getting a better quarterback, really helps. I was talking to a Carolina Panthers fan the other day, God forbid, and he was like, "Oh, I hate Matt Rule and yada yada yada." I mean, that was just me paraphrasing their accent, but I hope they watch
That's
the
a good
show.
accent.
That was actually pretty close to the person it was. But at any rate, I was like, you can't blame Matt Rule for being a terrible coach. For one, the Carolina Panthers have the worst ownership in all of professional sports.
Yeah, so you can easily blame David Tepper.
Yeah, you can't win with an owner like that. And two, he had no quarterback, so it's Marcus Satterfield. Like, yes, he will. You can blame the play calling last season, but look at what he had to work with. You can only make. It's hard to make chicken salad out of stuff that's not chicken. So that's what I'm going to say about the quarterback room last year. It's improved this year. He's got Glenn Thomas to help him out. He's not calling the plays, but Glenn Thomas can just kind of advise him and see what he sees. So I think that's going to help. Also, they've worked together before. I just feel like the operation's going to be better, and we're going to have a better quarterback. So I feel like the offense, I predicted them in my 5 predictions at HuskerBigRed.com. I think we're going to average 30 points per game this year.
Do you think Thomas will be on the sidelines and Satterfield in the booth, or do you think it'll be vice versa?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I like having the offensive coordinator in the booth, but
I do too.
Everybody's different, though. I mean, Sharon Moore did it for years on the sideline, and he was pretty successful. So, I mean, it just depends on the coach, I guess.
I just like it because you can see, obviously, from a different viewpoint up in the booth than relay. But I think having Thomas in the booth, Satterfield on the field, I think would be fine too. So I'll be interested to see that dynamic because when you look at the Nebraska football offense and how many new pieces and how many moving pieces and things like that, I think it will be important to have at least some guidance for the quarterbacks on the field.
Yeah, I would expect one of them to be. To me, it makes sense for Thomas to be on the field, for Satterfield to be in the booth, and then of course this year he'll be able to be in the helmet of Dylan Raiola for the first 25 seconds of the play clock. They shut it down at 15 seconds, so there will be less signaling. There's still signaling for formations and personnel and things like that, so you're still going to see those annoying people on the sideline, but not as much. You'll see more of the helmet communication like we've seen in the NFL, which should have happened like 27 years ago or whatever. But at any rate, I do think the offense is going to be looking a lot better. And I'm excited to see this game plan, but don't expect Nebraska to come out and throw the ball 50 times on Saturday. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No, you don't want to reveal anything before the Colorado game.
And let's see. So rounding up here, is there any other stuff that we need to cover? I guess we should say tomorrow is going to be the first volleyball match of the season, which I'm pretty excited about. So
I'm going to follow volleyball this year.
Yeah, man, this volleyball team is going to be exciting, I think. Although ranked number 2 to start, with Texas still being number 1. So, God, I hate Texas so much and everything. I really do. I just really despise them. But Nebraska's playing tomorrow night. I want to say I'm going to have to double check the time. I want to say it's like 7:30, but they're in the volleyball showcase, which is going to be really kind of an exciting thing. You've got 3 of the 4 teams, I think, that made the Final Four last year. Nebraska's number 2. They're playing the 7th-ranked Kentucky. It's going to be on ESPN2, 6 p.m. Central Time. So check that out tomorrow in the KFC Yum Center in Louisville. So might be that's the thing. I know. I hate saying that. It's kind of interesting, though, because it's like closer to Kentucky, but there's going to be more Nebraska fans there, the Kentucky fans there. I bet.
There always is more Nebraska fans everywhere, even in Ireland.
I know. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Nebraska fans are crazy. Although I did see I haven't watched the volleyball documentary, but it sounds like there was a lot of negativity towards Harper Berry after the national championship game last year, which is really disappointing. Like, come on, man. What are you people doing? Like,
negativity from Nebraska fans?
I mean, but
Or
yeah, negativity from Nebraska fans, like telling her to kill herself and
oh
things
yeah,
like
because I
that.
saw that, and I'm not surprised. I'll be honest, I'm not surprised.
And it's just I'm not surprised. Nothing surprises me, but it's just really disappointing. And and then to see her have kind of this downward spiral this spring. But I'm glad that Nebraska did the right thing, supported her, stood behind her. They didn't suspend her and do anything else. She's just a kid, man. She's what 19 years old, but I was
And people
glad
will
to.
say, well, they're in the public spotlight, blah, blah, blah. They're not professional athletes. They're college kids. We put them on the pedestal because we believe in them so highly, and they're allowed to make mistakes. They're human. I made mistakes in college, and I'm glad it wasn't, nationally broadcast or
Yeah,
reported.
yeah. I don't want all my high school and college mistakes nationally reported. That's a very good point because
Yeah.
I would look like a complete moron because everybody's a moron when they're 18 to 21 years old usually. But I really was proud of John Cook for he said if we're not going to support these girls, who is? And so I was also happy to see the support that Husker Nation gave her on
Mm.
Saturday. And you know what?
Yep.
Because most fans do love you, Harper Murray, and do support you. There's crazy people out there everywhere, but for the most part, 99% of Husker fans, are firmly behind you and this team as they try to win a national championship this year. But whatever happens, we love you either way. So it's going to be fun to watch this team get back out there, though. A ton of talent. I mean, Andy Jackson in the middle block was incredible the other night. They brought in Taylor Landfair, who was a Big Ten Player of the Year previously, and so I mean, there's a question of whether Harper Murray could even start. And now Taylor Landfair was former Big Ten Player of the Year, might be coming off the bench for Nebraska. So that just shows you what kind
Loaded,
of
loaded.
depth and yeah, exactly. So national championship or bust this year.
And
Um,
some Nebraska basketball news. They have their matchup set for the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii in December. It was announced late last week. They will open with Murray State, and then they will face either Hawaii or Charlotte, depending on the results of the game against Murray State. And Murray State, they've had success, in past years, but they struggled last year. They went 12-20. And this could be an opportunity for Nebraska to really continue to build. I'm really excited about this roster. And this could be a nice tune-up tournament before conference play begins. So it was kind of cool to see them announce their opponent last week. And I always love these tournaments because it gives me a chance to see other teams that I might not be able to see. And I think it should be a good one. I'm not going to say, oh, Nebraska's going to win, but I believe with the talent that they have, they can definitely make some noise both in and out of conference play.
I'm definitely drinking the Fred Hoiberg
Yeah,
Nebraska basketball Kool-Aid, man. I really like this team.
I do too.
We'll see how it comes together, but I like that team, and I like the team that Amy Williams has too.
Yeah.
Got to see. I want to see what Brett Prince can do because they're gonna need something from her this year because replacing Jazz Shelley is going to be tough. They brought in some transfers, and then they've got some other players coming back from injury, so they've got a lot of good pieces. Alexis Markowski's back, obviously Natalie Potts, but if Britt Prince can live up to the hype, then Nebraska women's basketball maybe could be like a Sweet 16 team in the next couple of years. Very possible, maybe even this year. Who knows?
And both programs have stability. Fred Hoiberg, Amy Williams just signed extensions in March, so they should be able to be around for a long time. The buyout for Hoiberg, at least I know, is hefty. So hopefully there's some success coming in the future, and I think there will be as long as Fred continues to build and he keeps building really good transfer portal rosters. And some people may knock it, but it's working. We've seen it the last 3 years. It has worked.
And what I like too with this transfer portal class specifically, like Connor Esegan, and now I'm blanking on the kid from Rutgers. What's the Rutgers kid name?
Gavin Griffiths.
Yeah, Gavin Griffiths. What I like about them is they've both got multiple years to play, right? Like Esegan could play
Yep.
2 more years, Griffiths could play 3 more years. So, when you see like Bryce Williams and Juwan Gary leaving after this year, like these two guys could kind of step into those roles in terms of the 2 and 3 for Nebraska, and so I really like that.
Not to
I think
mention you have
those,
Berke
yeah,
Boyakatencil, I believe is
boy,
like
I think that's legit, man. That was great pronunciation. So
I figured I got to learn it.
I'm just gonna call him Berkey. So
So I figured I got to learn it because I'm going to be saying his name a lot.
man, he played really well, and
Yeah.
he's only a freshman or he's
Yep.
going to be a sophomore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just super excited because like with Berkey and Esegan and Gavin Griffiths. I just feel like Fred Hoiberg's coaching ability and his ability to make players better on the offensive end is just that's really gonna show with those three guys. So I mean, Griffiths was a dynamic shooter, but he was playing at Rutgers, man, and that's like
That's tough
the
for anybody.
offensive black hole. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what it is, just the way they play the game. And so I think he's really going to be not Keisei Tominaga-esque, but I think he's going to be. I mean, Tominaga was a junior college transfer, and this kid was a top 50 overall recruit. So Fred Hoiberg's going to get a lot out of this kid.
And I'll be curious to see, Braxton Mee and how much they get out of him too.
Yeah,
Because we've needed a big guy for forever, and we had. And I'm not bashing Josiah Alik. I thought he did a very respectable job. He was a very, very solid player, and he loved Nebraska basketball. But I felt like his height at times, he was one of the smaller bigs, and that's not a problem for me. So we'll see.
well, and him and I feel like Berkey offers some rim protection as well. Being like 6'11", but yeah, May is just. I really wish we would have had him last year in that Big Ten semifinal game against Illinois, because I feel like Illinois would not have been just driving at the basket constantly with a true rim protector, and then somebody else too, who kind of in the pick and roll game, like you can lob that thing up and that dude can go get it and slam dunk. Like we're going to see some slam dunks this year from our center, which we have not seen the past few years.
Where do you think Raleigh Worcester fits in all this?
It's Wooster, Raleigh Wooster, just because he's from Montana, so I actually know how to pronounce that dude's name. I like him because I feel like he's I feel like he's going to be one of the best defensive point guards in the Big Ten. And we really struggled, with on-ball defense, and we kind of had Keisei out there last year, and he just wasn't a great defender for all the great things he did. And Raleigh's going to change that. Plus, he's a true point guard. I mean, he's a guy that, yeah, he can average 8 or 9 points a game, but I feel like he's a true point guard more in the Sam Griesel mold. And I feel like he reminds me a lot of Sam Griesel. I feel like we're getting that type of player, strong defender, strong point guard, can shoot a little bit, can score, but just a great leader. And I feel like Aaron Eulis is a solid guy, and he's going to get some minutes. But Raleigh, I think, is going to be point guard number 1 this year.
And having Eulis coming off the bench is not a bad thing at all either. Like, this team is loaded depth-wise.
It really is. And Eulis too. I mean, he started games at Iowa. He's played, a lot of big. And the thing about him, talking when Fred Hoiberg talked about his offensive game and kind of what he could bring with his shot and how he could improve his shot, like he's going to shoot the ball better after being coached by Fred Hoiberg. So Eulis is, I mean, if it wasn't Raleigh Wooster, like I have no problem with him being the starting point guard. So I feel great about this Nebraska basketball team.
I really do. I think they're going to be a ton of fun. I think it's going to be great to watch, and I wish I could go to some games, but maybe if the NCAA tournament was ever in Boston. I know it was in Boston a couple of years ago, but speaking on NCAA tournament, I fully believe that this is a team that can win at least one game and kind of break that curse. But
God, I hope so.
I'm really so excited about basketball season too and football season. Like, this basketball team is going to be fun to watch when there's nothing else on in January and February. And that's not just because there's nothing else to watch. I truly believe they're going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun sports year for Nebraska fans.
When's the last time we could say that?
I don't know. We've been saying that's going to be, but this year it's going to live up to the hype, I think. The 2024-2025 sports year for Nebraska football, or the University of Nebraska, which starts basically Tuesday with the volleyball match and then Saturday with the game against UTEP. So we're going to be here for everything. We're going to be, like I said, we're going to boost up our show production here. So we'll come back Monday. We'll talk UTEP, and then we'll have another episode Friday, and then join us.
Come back Monday or come back Wednesday? You said Monday.
Sorry, I meant come back Wednesday and then Friday, and then we'll be back with our Saturday morning chat, our kickoff chat. So instead of watching College Game Day, come hang out with Danny and Chris, and you can answer our questions. We'll have a fun time talking about UTEP, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully be celebrating the first win of the season about 6:30 Central Time on Saturday.
I miss Lee Corso. Pat McAfee just doesn't do it for me.
I can't. He's all right. I mean, yeah, some people ripped me for my Pat McAfee take. I'm just not that big of a fan of him. He's gotten better. I'll say that his
I like him better on his own show. I'll say that. Like,
yeah, he's not bad. Sometimes his interviews sometimes are okay, but I feel like he just leans into things a little too much, where it's like, if you just do a little bit of research, Pat, you would be, a lot better off. And I really, to be honest,
he's just been great at ESPN.
Well, true. And to be honest, probably the reason I don't like him is because the weekly Aaron Rodgers spot, and that always annoyed the shit out of me as a Packers
Yeah.
fan. So maybe I probably have that prejudice against him because Aaron Rodgers is a D-bag, so whatever. But at any rate, that's how we're going to end the show today, you guys. But we'll be back. You always get our extra commentary here at the Husker Big Red podcast. But make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.